This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Huss and Reem with you for the next couple of hours. Lots to talk about. Not a great conversation coming out of last night's dud in the Duck Pond. Jets losing 3-2 in a game that, well, let's just say was very, very ugly from the visitors' perspective for 40 minutes. Looked really good for 15, and then TSN crapped out, and then the Jets crapped out as well. A 3-2 loss on the road against the Anaheim Ducks, and get into this. I feel terrible for Eric Comrie. I mean, what did this guy do to his teammates to have them come out as poorly again in front of him? And credit to Comrie for keeping the Winnipeg Jets in that game for 40 minutes before they kind of got their act together and carried the play, and then fell apart at the end, losing in regulation. We'll break it down. We'll hear from Coach Scott Arniel, who was not pleased with the game last night, and a sort of sheepish Gabe Velarde and Nikolai Ehlers, who didn't have a lot of positive things to say about his team's play a little later on as well. We will also get ready for the World Junior Hockey Championships, which, of course, is beginning on the 26th of December in Ottawa. Shane Malloy is going to jump on and tell us what to look for, a little bit of a breakdown of the Canadian team. And while we're mentioning the Canadian team, congratulations to Brayden Yager, Winnipeg Jet prospect, of course, who came over in the Pittsburgh trade for Rucker McGroarty. Brayden Yager is going to be wearing the C for Canada, which will be fun for Jet fans to watch one of the top prospects in the system get such a big opportunity, not only to represent his country once again, but to have the C on his jersey. So Shane Malloy's coming on. We're going to check in with our pal Brian Munz, see what he's thought about the Jet season so far, and he can fill us in on the big news in golf from Golf Manitoba this year, the 5-course rotation for the Manitoba Open beginning next year at Breezy Bend. And then John Waldman from the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame is going to come on. Whiskey Fest is coming up. They got a great deal on tickets for that. And, of course, we'll check in at what's going on in the hall as well. So we got a very busy show. Happy holidays to you all, and happy holidays to all of our sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. Of course, our friends at Coolbet Canada just finished a real fun show with Pat Gregoire. We'll let you know what we cooked up in the lock shop a little later on in the Coolbet line segment. And a big one tomorrow, getting ready for the football weekend and the college football playoffs. So if you're kicking around before tomorrow's show, head on over to Edmonton Sports Talk and join myself and Pat with our NFL best bets and more. Of course, the great people at Princess Auto, with just mentioning the World Juniors, the Hockey Canada Ultimate 50-50 is up right now. You can grab your tickets at hockeymanitoba.myshopify.com. Of course, the most trusted name in moving, Rolly's Transfer, Manitoba Battery, fansfirst.ca, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, the Winnipeg Jets, Little Brown Jug, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, and a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. I can basically say the why not question of the day for Not right off the bat. What the hell was that last night? And I will pose that question to Michael Remis as well, right out of the gate. Remo, what's up?
Yeah, stayed up till 9 until midnight to watch that game, and not a great performance. We can agree that the game against the Sharks, wasn't their best game, but they were able to pull out a win. And last night, even worse, outshot horribly. First two periods, 12-4 period 1, 10-4 period 2. They seemed to wake up in the third period, and it was amazing how poorly they played after 2, but it was still tied 1-1. That's because this power play has been so elite. It only took them 9 seconds when Nikolai Ehlers slammed the puck into Velarde's shin pads in front of the net, and he had a wide open net. Really impressive play by Kyle Connor going end to end to set up Mark Scheifele, whose one-timer has really taken another level this year. We've seen a couple beautiful goals by him. That was one. But
now that he can hold his stick again after whatever was happening a few weeks ago. I mean, listen, I will say this. I mean, obviously, we're going to be talking about probably more of the bad because there was a lot of it in last night's game.
Oh, well.
But that freaking goal, Kyle Connor going end to end to Mark Scheifele, as I tweeted last night, that was absolutely world class, and a late contender for one of the top goals of the year from the Winnipeg Jets. Unfortunately, plays like that were few and far in between, especially in the first couple periods where it's had a really miserable start, didn't get a shot for the first 10 minutes or so of the game.
Yeah,
and
that's bad.
I mean, if you were looking at the shot clock, it was frankly embarrassing for the first 40 minutes against a team like Anaheim.
Yeah, it wasn't great, Huss, and I don't want to use I'm not going to use any excuses here. You got to show up against a team like the Ducks. Thankfully their power play, it did go 1 for 4. Penalty kill was perfect, but it wasn't great. And for Eric Comrie, that's now his 5th straight loss. So it just was no one showed up, and Gabe Velarde said as much after the game. Some real honest comments from Velarde and Nikolai Ehlers. And we didn't even mention before the game, Nikolai Ehlers was activated and put in the lineup. Chibrikov out, so Ehlers slotted back in a line too, and they did make a change. Ville Heinola was on the third pair with Logan Stanley and Colin Miller healthy scratch. I almost forgot that Heinola was in the game. I mean, no one really has played up to the level that we've seen from the Winnipeg Jets, and disappointing. But even still, they had a chance to win the game and probably should have got a point, but that's not the way you want to play a game, Huss. And they'll have a couple days off here before they play Minnesota on Saturday. There was one bright spot, and if you're chasing Minnesota got absolutely shellacked by Florida last night, 6-1. Matthew Tkachuk was showing them who's boss, and they'll be here Saturday. But they have a game Friday at home against Utah. So the Jets get a couple days here to rest. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yes.
So there you go. So Minnesota will play one of their makeup games against, because they've got 2 games in hand on the Jets. The Jets remain 3 points up at the top of the division. And I know, with the exception of waiters in the chat, we don't like to give too much love to the Maple Leafs, but shout out to the Buds for beating Dallas last night. And Pat, of course, out of Toronto with Coolbet doing the lock shop with him, big Leaf guy. I asked him about the game, and he said that, this is a game that the Leafs only had 19 shots in. They probably didn't deserve to win, but Jake Ottinger had a very tough night at the office apparently last night. So, listen, it's a long season. It's 82 games. You'll have some nights where you're not at your best. The Jets certainly were far from that last night. Unlike some people in the chat, as I said, I don't think that we're going to be talking about these games in the middle of December come playoff time. And this team is far from a finished product. And listen, what you got to do is get points, and they failed in that opportunity, considering they battled back in the third period when they probably had no business being in the game and being up. And the one thing they have been pretty good this year is holding down leads. That didn't happen last night. And again, I'm not putting this on Eric Comrie at all. The team should not have been in the game after 40 minutes, and they were because of Eric Comrie. But man, Remis, you look back at the last 5 games for Comrie, which have all been losses. The 14th of November in Tampa, they lost 4-1, scored 1 goal. The Nashville game, which I believe was the second of back-to-backs. Yeah, they played Pittsburgh the night before. They score 1 goal and lose 4-1. The game in Vegas, which actually was a pretty good game overall by the Jets, but like last night, had a tough time in the final 5 minutes of the game and gave up the goal. One mistake is all it takes. Boom, you lose that one. The really ugly game finishing up that epic road trip that was a home game, but still sort of part of the road trip, the 4-1 loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets. And then Anaheim last night, 3-2. Hasn't been getting a lot of run support and certainly didn't have a team playing anywhere close to their best in front of them last night. And I guess right off the bat, I mean, we'll hear this from players. I think, they did their teammate, one of the nicest guys around, pretty dirty last night with such a ugly performance for a guy that really needed a win.
Yeah, you just went through the numbers, and I mean, it's tough. You're at the end of the game, 25 seconds left, the puck's in your own end. You just got to make sure you get it out safely up the boards, and not able to do that. It was Vetrano poking it away, getting it to Troy Terry all alone in front and ending. And yes, we were blessed with the Anaheim Ducks call as TSN had some technical issues and had to move to the Ducks feed. And so how excited were they? I mean, how excited were they about the Ducks playing such a great game against the first place Winnipeg Jets? We did get to hear the road perspective before that. But yeah, I mean, you look at Comrie's numbers, he's given them a chance, but they seem to score one extra, at the end. He's the last couple of games not getting a lot of run support, you guys, but he's allowed 3 goals against. So I thought they were in position to get a point despite it playing horrible. And, you can argue they got what they deserved. They'll have to regroup and make sure they have a better game Saturday against the Minnesota team that's all pissed off at Matthew Tkachuk from sitting on Marc-Andre Fleury last night. I was watching that game at the same time. Ryan Hartman was losing it. Us actually on Tkachuk, who fell on Fleury. But they got to play Friday first against Utah, who had an exciting overtime win against Vancouver. So the Jets, it was a tough one yesterday, Huss. That was unfortunate.
Well, you know what? It's actually a good time to mention Saturday because that's going to be the WST holiday party, if you will, at Canada Life Center. And we got extra tickets added because the section sold out from what we had allotted from the Jets. But while supplies last, if you want to join us for what should be an awesome Saturday night, Hockey Night in Canada game, the Jets' biggest rival, in my opinion at least. I mean, there's certainly a lot of heat between these two clubs. And an opportunity, as Kenny pointed out on KNR last night, for the Jets to sweep the season series for the Wild for the second straight year. Winnipeg 2-0 on the season so far against Minnesota, and this is the final matchup between these two clubs. So if you would like to join us, grab one of those final tickets in 316. Go to winnipegjets.com/WST. Grab your ticket. It will include a beverage of your choice, which will be redeemed through the Jets 360 app. We are going to be gathering on the Portage side up in, what did they call it? The Michelob Ultra flight deck or something like that?
Yeah, Michelob fan deck, yeah.
So we'll do that. And for those that maybe want to get out there a little early, we'll probably pop by. I think my plan at least is going to be to watch the Chiefs and the Texans and then head down and maybe post up at our friends at Boston Pizza City Place for the first half of that Steelers-Ravens game before heading in and meeting the crew and getting on it. By the way, I will tease this. There is a Ryan Hartman-themed costume to be worn by one of our attendees that will certainly, I can guarantee it will make its way to the WST social medias. But anyways, if you don't have tickets and you're open on Saturday night, join us for what should be a heck of a time. Get the WST crew together at the holidays and hopefully lay down some season's beatings on the Minnesota Wild. Quick breaking news, Reem, we were just mentioning Dylan Coughlin's cleared waivers apparently.
Yes, Elliot Friedman, it's 1 o'clock. We got the waiver wire report and says everyone from yesterday cleared. So Dylan Coughlin was put on waivers for the purposes of being sent to the Manitoba Moose. He played one game with the Jets, and we wondered who were they going to send down when Nikolai Ehlers came back. Chibrikov came out of the lineup, guessing had some lingering issues from the injury that caused him to leave the game briefly against San Jose. And Dylan Coughlin was the odd man out. Seems like an easy decision. Huss hadn't really played, put him down, and it seemed like the Moose need some help as well. And they'll be here this weekend and next weekend, so you can get a look at. We'll see what happens with Dylan Coughlin, where he is in their lineup.
Well, listen, the Moose could use some help right now. They have really been struggling, to quote Joe Namath, and can hopefully get a win. Listen, I know that we kind of live in the present and react to the games as they come, and that was an absolute dud. And listen, if that was game number 82 and that's the way you're going into playoffs, that didn't look like a team that was ready to go. I think what is important to note, and we'll talk about this with Rewucki coming up when he joins us. I think there's going to be some significant changes to this roster at some point. Now, like when I say significant changes, some adds. We certainly know the blue line is an area of need for the Winnipeg Jets, and I think a game like that kind of highlighted that. For all the good that Neil Pionk has done, and he has had a great start to the season and a big bounce back year. Those turnovers and giveaways in the defensive zone can come to bite you in the ass, and they certainly did in the last minute of last night's game. And I think the forward group, it was very much, potentially to be tweaked. And they got the benefit of Ehlers coming back. I mean, Ehlers looked like a guy, to be honest, from my perspective, that had been off for a little bit. But getting a better mix and maybe a little bit more on that number 2 line. But I will say this. I mean, when Scheifele, Connor, and Velarde are going, they are a handful, and they had some moments last night. And the one thing I'll say, I know some people, this is the exact same team. Well, I mean, obviously it's not. Teams change from year to year. Even the same players are different from year to year. The one thing that I will say is very different, and we saw it in spades last night, as Remis just mentioned, is this Winnipeg Jet power play. And that is something you'll hope they can keep going because it'll be important. But again, I think it's way too early to start talking about playoffs right now. You got to get there first. You got to compete night after night. The Jets didn't do well enough in that category last night. And frankly, the final result of that hockey game was just, even though the Jets probably should have gotten 2 points, being up 2-1, with about 5 minutes left in the game. And by the way, I've got to give our pal Sean Reynolds credit. The opening of KNR last night and Rennie going on about last night's game, dripping with sarcasm, was one of the more entertaining openings we've got from our pal Sean this year. And to be honest, it was very much deserved by the hockey club with the way they played last night, Reem.
Yeah, I think Sean was he's jokingly bringing out all the excuse meter as well, saying, "Whoa, the back-to-back, the time zones." Even made reference to the barometric pressure in the arena being different. So I had a good laugh. I almost texted Sean, but I want to thank him actually for coming on the show. But that was pretty funny.
I did text him. I said to him, I said, dude, I'm just listening to your opening from last night, just with the crying, laughing emoji, some of your finest work. And he said, much appreciated. I'm getting a lot of messages about it. So, Listen, that was hard to put lipstick on a pig. And that was the case last night. And the lipstick came off in the last 5 minutes for the Winnipeg Jets, and they didn't get the win.
I will say, though, with like 10 seconds left and they're in their own end, like desperately trying to get it out, for them to spring Velarde, I fell out of my chair, like screaming in my basement at midnight. Be like, oh my God, like if he would have scored there, would have been
7 points. Like it was like 7 or 8 seconds when they dropped the puck, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And all of a sudden he's all alone in front of the net. That was absolutely ridiculous for that to even be possible. But I'll tell you what, the one guy that really stood out to me, Lucas Dostal. We've talked a lot about Connor Hellebuck and how brilliant he's been. Lucas Dostal is the guy for the Ducks right now. I mean, they've got Leo Carlson and Cutter Gauthier and a lot of really talented young players. They look like they've got an absolute stud in net. And we here in Winnipeg all know how important that is. Let's hear from the coach, though. Not very pleased with the overall performance. I guess we'll start off with the good news, I guess somewhat good news if you're looking at last night's game. I mean, the 15 minutes the Jets played well, unfortunately, weren't able to hold that lead. Here's Arnie on the third period last night in Anaheim.
Well, I mean, we got the lead. We didn't play very well for 2 periods. Found a way to get out and get a lead, and we're usually pretty good when we get up, especially in the third period, and made some mistakes. obviously critical mistakes, one face-off play, and then just a turnover near the end of the game, and Anaheim gets the win.
On that game winner in particular, what did you see on that play?
Come on, everybody saw what happens.
You all saw it. Yeah. I can imagine Arnie would have preferred to maybe use some different language, but obviously keeping it PG. Probably tried to do his best as well, discussing the first two periods where the Jets weren't really even in it.
Well, you know what? We hadn't done anything for 2 periods. Comrie stood on his head like he's done his last 3 or 4 starts for us, and just not a very good effort. I knew that we were gonna be slow to get out of the gate. Anaheim hadn't played, and we were coming in off of the win last night, and you know what? We knew we were going to be slow, but it took us 2 periods to get going, and he really held the fort for us, played strong, and it's disappointing that we couldn't have got him a point tonight or 2. Like I said, usually when we're out in front in the 3rd period, we do a pretty good job of locking down games, and just didn't get it done tonight.
So Scott Arniel on the game overall. I mean, as I mentioned, if you're trying to dig out a few positives from a really disappointing night last night, the power play continues to be one. And for as ugly as that game looked through 40 minutes, it took all of 9 seconds for the Jets to get back on even footing. Here's Arnie on the continued success of the power play.
They're obviously feeling it. They, our retrievals, our attack mindset. We just try to take advantage of situations, getting teams, if they want to be over aggressive, then we move the puck quick. If they want to sit back, then we kind of tee off and let our shots go. But just, I think our work ethic has probably been the biggest thing.
Nikolai Ehlers returned to the lineup tonight. What did you see from his performance?
Player that was rusty.
Not pulling any punches there. A player that was rusty. That was quite accurate. But listen, this is certainly not on Ehlers. There was a ton of company. The entire team wasn't good last night for the vast majority of the hockey game. Now, listen, this is a team that's still in first place. You got 3-point cushion on the Wild, thanks to the Wild and both Dallas losing last night. But this is a far cry from what we saw in the first 16 games when the Winnipeg Jets were 15-1. Now, no sane person would have expected that to continue. But at the same point, you expect a lot more from a team as talented as the Winnipeg Jets are from what they put forth last night. One more question on Arnie, on just the team not being able to sustain their momentum of that great start over the course of certainly their toughest portion of the schedule leading into last night.
Well, it's a tough league. In the NHL here, you're not gonna go 18-1, and you knew that it was going to be some hard days. The schedule is hard for everybody with this 4 seasons tournament coming, and but at the end of the day, we're still right in the thick of things. We're still sitting at the top of our division. We're in a very tough division in the West, sitting in the top of the league right now. So, for us, it's just there's a lot of hockey to play. Nothing's ever been handed out in December, and for us, it's just kind of stick to what we need to do. And we had a great start, but there's a lot of hockey still to go.
Reem, it was somewhat appropriate that Kenny came on yesterday's show wearing the Wake Up shirt. Because I would imagine that the way that game finished, and really just, the overall quality of play for the most part in this quick 2-gamer to California, will hopefully be somewhat of a wake-up call and have the Jets ready to go in a game that they're simply going to have to be way better if they want to get a win on Saturday night, which is a big game for the team, and certainly big for fans of the Winnipeg Jets, who will hopefully like to have a much better result on a Saturday night at home against Minnesota.
Yeah, as a late one last night, had trouble keeping my eyes open as the Jets didn't have a shot on goal for the first 10 minutes. I think the most entertaining part was Sarah's intermission interview with Alex Iafallo. That was a pretty awesome feature. So yeah, they're gonna the power play, 9 seconds, incredible. Nikolai Ehlers says he's not even he didn't even know what he was doing there, and it somehow ends up in the back of the net. But that was the bright spot in Kyle Connor's rush. Cutting back and finding Mark Shade for the one-timer. The highlight to the game, it just wasn't enough. And I thought this Anaheim team, and San Jose team, 2 teams in the bottom of the standings, well, they both looked pretty good against the Jets. The last 2, we know the Jets are a different team at home. I'm expecting a great atmosphere for the holiday game. On Saturday, they know that we're coming out in Section 316 with a bunch of listeners against the rival Wild. So I think we should see a bounce back, but wasn't the best road trip, even if you do get 2 out of 4 points.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Listen, we'll hear from Velarde in just a minute, but needless to say, the takes are coming in hot and heavy. Remis, let's do fans first. Fan feedback right now while everyone's firing from the hip right out of the gate. Of course, fan feedback is brought to you by fansfirst.ca, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market. 5 fans, 4 fans with no fees. When you go to fansfirst.ca and you look at what the ticket's going to cost you, that's what it costs you. Everything is included. There are no fees on top of it. If you're familiar with sites like StubHub, you're like, oh, great, I'm getting a good deal on this ticket. And then it's twice as expensive by the time it finishes with the taxes and the fees. Not so at Fans First. And amazing customer service as well. A great resource for season ticket holders if they do have to move some tickets. All right, let's get to it. Matt Hyman, remember the days when the Jets used to play better with their backup in net? That certainly has not been the case. Choices TK said team's been bad for weeks, just getting away with it. Here's a classic. Here's a classic SK. Vesna has been granting the Jets win. I've said it too many times that if it weren't for Helly, the Jets would be below 500. Thinking now they would be 250. Again, I mean, you know what? Don't hold back, everybody. Get it all out. I will remind you that if you were 250, you would be far and away the worst team in the National Hockey League. I think that might be a little bit of an overreaction. I'm pretty sure the Jets aren't the worst team in the NHL, with the exception of Connor Hellebuck, but I guess we live in the moment, and they certainly didn't look very good last night. So keep them locked and loaded. And Larry's right in there. Not good to agree with me, SK. Let's see. There's some other ones. Dart Skater, I heard the moms booed the team at the end of the game, and one of the moms threw their son's jersey on the ice. Is that true? No, I don't. And we shouldn't blame the moms. But it was an unfortunate way for that game to end for the moms there, and certainly for the team. But listen, they just need to smarten up and get ready to go against the Minnesota Wild coming up on Saturday night. Keep the thoughts coming in. We'll stay on top of your fan feedback all afternoon right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans. No fees. All right, Rewucki's coming up. We'll hear from Gabe Velarde and Nikolai Ehlers in a little bit. Don't forget, though, we're going to be talking World Juniors coming up with Shane Malloy. The Ultimate 50-50 is on right now. Tickets are open. Might make a great stocking stuffer to get in for some of these big draws in and around the holidays. And, of course, they're doing each provincial hockey organization from coast to coast is doing a draw. So here in Manitoba, your tickets will be in a pot with Manitobans, and 50% will go to the winner. 50% is going to go to grow grassroots hockey initiatives right here in Manitoba. So you're helping hockey at every level by buying tickets to the event and have a chance for a great prize, which will be drawn, the first draw, December 26th. There's a link in the description. But if you're listening on the podcast, go to hockeymanitoba.myshopify.com. You will be able to pick everything from a single bullet, one ticket, all the way up to a massive $999 with a great deal on that. And again, it's for a great cause. So hockeymanitoba.myshopify.com. Get your tickets before Christmas for that first draw on the 26th. Big happy holidays to our friends at Rolly's Transfer. And gang, if you have a move coming up for you and your family in 2025, give our friends at Rolly's a call. Family owned and operated for over 60 years, the most trusted name in moving services in Manitoba. with an extensive logistics business that takes them around the city and province every single day, which means flexible routes, flexible rates, and great pricing on your move. What you're going to want to do is head over to their website and click on the request an estimate page feature, top right corner. First of all, put in the promo code WST for a special discount for Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners on moving services and moving supplies. And then let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to go. And the friendly staff at Rollies will get back to you right away with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove service from Rollies for your next move coming up in 2025. If you are on the move, make it Rollies. Find out more, request an estimate today over at rollies.com. It's getting cold again. It is getting cold again, and our friends at Manitoba Battery are ready to help you give a Christmas gift that matters this year. Do not let your loved ones get stranded in the cold with a vehicle that won't start. Make sure they're equipped to handle what's ever thrown at them this winter with a NOCO 1000 amp booster pack for only $139.50, or get them a set of 25-foot booster cables for just $65. And guys, maybe you're going to want to treat yourself to a great deal as well right now and grab that ice fishing flasher battery you need, or that sled battery that needs to be replaced, and all for the best prices in the city. Whether it's to you or your loved ones, let Manitoba Battery help you give a Christmas gift that matters. Learn more at manitobabattery.com, now with 2 locations to serve you. The OG spot, Logan Avenue, and their new location on the south side over on Dovercourt Drive. And just before we bring in Brandon Rewucki, speaking of Christmas, guys, if you have someone that is having a tough time deciding what to get you for Christmas, you might want to give them a little nudge and say, why don't you head over to F Apparel and take advantage of the great deal they have on gift cards right now. You're looking to up your menswear game with the best in custom clothing and menswear here in Manitoba. You know F has that. And right now, how about a 15% bonus on any gift card purchase of over $100? So a little free money on that. Who doesn't like that? And who doesn't like the best in men's clothing? Custom made to look great and fit at F Apparel. Pop by and see him at 190 Smith Street downtown, or go online that's EPHapparel.com. Grab those gift cards with a 15% bonus on any purchase of $100 or more right now up until Christmas. All right, let's get Brandon Rewucki in here to continue the conversation. Rue, best of the season. What's going on?
Yeah, to you as well. I was kind of laughing at that listener's comments at the mom's toss.
250.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it just kind of brought me back to my childhood, because that's how every one of my games ended, was one of my parents tossing my jersey to the ground. So thanks for the trip down memory lane there.
Oh, man, that was a dud last night. And listen, the Jets have a knack of, they are good enough at times, especially against teams like Anaheim that are in a rebuild mode, where you can get away with some things, and certainly that seemed to be the MO last night, because they barely showed up for the first couple periods, turned it on in the third for about 15 minutes, got the lead, but then, uncharacteristically, as you just heard from Scott Arniel, were not able to clamp it down, and I just feel terrible for Eric Comrie, because he was left out to dry so often last night, without a lot of pushback on the other end against Lucas Dostal, who you need to be at your best to beat.
He hasn't really gotten any support in any of his starts, it feels like, for the majority of the season. It's like either he's not getting any run support behind him, or he's not getting any defensive support in front of him. I totally agree with you there. And it was, I was kind of checking out the highlights this morning, and it was the Ducks feed that was doing the highlights. And right before the first goal, the play-by-play guy was saying, wow, Comrie's doing everything he can to keep this a 0-0 game, and then boom, immediately 1-0 there. And it was just, the goals themselves, he's not getting any help on. The defensive play, not getting any help on. And then 5-on-5, this team they've been anemic for a few weeks now, Huss. So it's, it's kind of, it's a two-pronged issue there, where it's like, yeah, Comrie's stats and record are nowhere near indicative of how well he's played this season. But it also is, in a way, kind of an indicator of how poorly the Jets have been for quite some time now. And yes, they were, I guess, hard done not to get at least a point of the game, because you're 20 seconds away. But in all reality, were they deserving of a single point? No. And especially because it was against one of, if not the worst teams in the league. It's like a double whammy there, where you're pissed off at how bad they played, and then they ultimately get the result they deserve, but then you lose a point and you lose some more ground in the standings.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, they were very fortunate on a few. They were fortunate to be in the game, and listen, credit to the scintillating power play for erasing 40 minutes of ugly hockey in 9 seconds and getting the team back on par. And then listen, they did play it looked like a different team for the first 15 minutes. But what's so disappointing is that, even if you want to say they got away with some ugliness in the first 2 periods, which they absolutely did, you're up in the last 5 minutes on the road against a team like that. This team has before, way more often than not, shut the door, and it got a little careless. Arnie's mentioned the thing off the face-off, and listen, the defensive turnover in the final minute that ends up with a guy all alone in front of your goaltender just simply cannot happen. And it did last night. Through all of this, though, I will say, this top line right now for the Winnipeg Jets, when they are on, and again, maybe, they're going up against a team that doesn't have anything to the level of Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, and Gabriel Velarde. But when I think of guys that really weren't coming to play as much, now listen, I'm not sitting here telling you that those guys were great early on, but one shift can often be all it takes for them to completely turn things around and get it in. And it's extra disappointing that they lost last night, because that goal that Mark Scheifele scored from Kyle Connor going end to end, as I mentioned to Remis, a late candidate for one of the goals of the year. Unfortunately, anything like that was basically limited to 1 or 2 plays last night, and everything else was very meh. You're muted. Or unless, did you mute him, Reem?
I never did anything. One sec. Let me try this.
Very strange.
You good now?
Can you hear me now, guys?
Yeah, good to go.
Now.
Beauty. Yeah, no, it was the game itself was kind of the best and the worst of that line, right? Because you have, I believe it might have actually been the first goal. But if you take a peek there, Mark Scheifele kind of did a 2021 defensive zone awareness level play there, where he's up, almost near the Raynette line, and just leaving this guy all alone in front, and an easy tip in on the first goal against Comrie there. But then you have that play there where, that's Kyle Connor at his best, and give him credit too for backtracking before the ultimate setup happened there, where he busted his ass to kind of get back into the play. And so, getting that from him first and foremost was the big part there. And then he does what 8 guys in the league can do. Maybe that's pushing it a little bit. It's a high end play, and that's always been the push and the pull of that line, right? And why you can understand why coaches look at that and go, they can change a game in one shift, but then fans might go, yeah, in our own end too. That's part of the problem there. But that play in particular is just that's high end, high level hockey at its best. And that's one thing that Jets fortunately don't have to worry about. There's a lot of other teams in the league that do, where it's like, we need to find high end talent, we need to find game breakers. Yeah, they're there in Winnipeg. But it then leads to kind of a more interesting conversation of, is this team best suited once again to have the same top line that they've had all season long together, combined with the fact that they've seen a little bit of a drawback in performance from basically the rest of their other forward lines over the last little bit.
Well, the funny thing is, watching that game last night, if you were going to sit here and give a suggestion as to how you change the top line, I don't think there was literally a guy in the lineup last night that put his best foot forward to say maybe they could do better. And Ehlers had a rough game coming up. You heard Arniel get asked, what did you think about Ehlers' return to the lineup? He looked rusty. He was not happy with that at all last night. And, there has been some times through, this second half of the first 30-odd games after the scintillating 15-1 start where, you had Hellebuck playing at a really high level. You had the Lowry line and the fourth line playing at a really high level. And, the top 6 was leaving a bit to be desired. Nobody was spared the wrath of the coach last night, I'm sure. And I can't imagine the video session that the team's going to be doing based on that one before they get ready to be much better against the Wild in a big game on Saturday night here in the Peg.
Yeah, that kind of performance is going to get ugly if they want to go up against one of the best teams in the NHL so far this season. I mean, I don't disagree with what you're saying there, in that even if Artie's like, yeah, let's change the lineup, looking down, going, okay, no, not him, not him, okay, not him, definitely not him. All right, I guess status quo is the way we go. So, I mean, the problem too is, like, when you look at the Scheifele line and the Nemesnikov line, and even like there's not a ton of speed. There's not a ton of burners in this forward group, right? And especially out there on the wing, in a sense, because, obviously the big change that a lot of people would say is to put Ehlers up there on the top line. But you can't have Ehlers and Connor together, in my opinion, on a line, because Velarde and Perfetti, I mean, you saw the Sports Logic stats a little while, like, they're two of the slowest wingers in all of hockey. And Nemesnikov isn't a burner, right? So, like, okay, we can't put them together. Nino also isn't necessarily a burner. Neither is, like, there's almost a little, like, I do wonder a little bit when I watch this team. We talk about size so much, and maybe that's more so on the back end there, but, like, it's a game like that one against Anaheim. And I know the Ducks aren't a good team, but they are a fast team and they're a skilled team, right? And they skated circles around the Jets for 45, 50 minutes of that hockey game. And I wonder how much of that is factoring into Chevy's pre-trade deadline plans of, we need to get, better, obviously, but, like, is it speed up front, size on the back end? Is it a little bit of both? Like, what's the plan here? There's definitely, the stretch here of, 8, 9, and whatever it is in the last few games. I don't think the Jets, that's not who they are as a team. I don't think the 15-1 start is who they are as a team either. I think their record right now actually perfectly kind of encapsulates who they are, which is, I would say, a really good regular season team. But we've certainly seen some warts and issues pop up in terms of the construction of this team, right? And I wonder how that's going to be addressed moving forward. Sandberg coming back is going to be massive. There's just, and again, I don't want to put this all on one player, but the second pair's, at least under the hood, results between Sandberg and Fleury, basically night and day. That's going to go a long, long way to making this a much more balanced and competitive team. But there certainly are some issues that I think we were pretty, all of us in Manitoba were privy to before the season started, that are kind of leaning towards, these are mandatory fixes that have to happen if you want to go up against the Colorados, the Dallases, the Minnesotas, even at this point now, Edmonton, right? Like, all those teams. I don't think you can just stand pat. I don't think Chevy is going to stand pat as well.
No, I'm with you. And I mean, there's a lot of really interesting conversations. Like, I will say this, and I mean, I kind of got on you yesterday, on, some people in the chat yesterday on, basically, not able to enjoy any of the wins right now because, well, what's the team going to do in the playoffs? Well, we'll find out in April. I mean, I hope people don't have, the joy of a great start and winning a lot of games and being in first place because it's not the playoffs. And if that's the case, you're probably best off just stepping away, setting an alarm for April 15th, and then seeing what happens. Yeah. Because this will be a process. And I think, there are identifying. I mean, there's no doubt that the blue line, if you want to compete with the best teams in the league, it's not where it needs to be right now. And I think, to your point, there has been a lot of really good things coming from a lot of areas of the Jets forward group right now. I think the fourth line has really exceeded expectations overall. I think the Lowry line has, there's been some ups and downs, but I mean, Adam Lowry's on a 50-point pace this year. They've really been getting the job done. And I think Kyle Connor's been way better this year. He's having a phenomenal season. We've seen a lot more the defense. And, to me, the second line is the biggest question mark as to how you get that working more effective in both ends and make the most of what you have, and who has to go to add what it is. But how much of this really, when we talk about what happens in the playoffs, is going to boil down to a couple things. And it's not who we just talked about. It's going to be, how well is your goaltender playing? How well are you as a group defending in front of them? And can your top line go up and win those battles against the top lines of other teams? I mean, I thought about this and I kind of chuckled with the guys I was watching the game last night with, because as bad as they were, you see that power play turn a game around in 9 seconds. And that's not something the Jets had last year. Far from it. That was actually something that was taken away a lot of them. And I think overall, after a really rough start, that top line for the most part has been as good as we've really seen in a long time. And I think Kyle Cotter has a huge part of it. And I think certainly with Mark Scheifele kind of being over whatever he was dealing with, is at the top line. But it really is going to come down to, again, we can talk about the periphery of the lineup and we can talk about Philly and Stan and the third pairing. When this team gets to showtime in game 83 and beyond, it will be more than ever on the shoulders of the best players on this team to be the best players and to be difference makers in a high-level competition in the Stanley Cup tournament.
Yeah, it's funny because it's not a light bulb type revelation, but I also feel like people are discounting that a fair amount. Maybe that's just the way regular season hockey is, right? Where you can bitch about, third line, fourth line, all that stuff a little bit easier. But like what you said there, I just kind of think of Chicago. Might have been their last cup run. And they had Nick Leddy playing 50 seconds a night, literally. Like two shifts a game. Kimmo Timonen, who they acquired for like a second round pick, maybe a shift a period, right? Like they and a lot of other teams have. It's like, yes, you need depth because there's just going to be some games those guys go cold, but ultimately it's the top dogs that kind of lead the way there. And so, kind of in that lens of the argument, you look at the top pair for Winnipeg, and I mean, at least with Josh Morrissey, you're like, okay, we got a gamer there. Like, he can go up against anybody, and we'll feel pretty good about that. Second pair, I would say some legitimate question marks, but they performed well, Pionk and Sandberg, when they've been put together so far this season. It does feel like this team is an impact forward away, though, doesn't it? I mean, we can talk about line combinations, what the ideal one is, yada, 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 but it feels like they need one more big-time piece. I think it's down the middle. I think that's pretty fair to everybody that's watched this team, that, Vladdy is the perfect Swiss Army knife that can be used in different situations. But, I mean, you look at the other top teams in the West, right? And I mean, look, Edmonton can, when they want, can do McDavid, Draisaitl down the middle. We look at, even Colorado with Middlestats, who's having a great season. Like, can you match up with what they have? Dallas, the same thing. You go on and on and on with the majority of these teams. That to me might be that big issue there, where it can be a lot easier to say, let's break up Connor, Scheifele, Velarde when they're not working, because we have another big piece that can mix and mash with the other forwards that we've got.
It's just not there right now. With all due respect to Vlad, who's been a very versatile player, has done so much more than I think anyone expected that he was when he was acquired in the fashion that he was and then extended. But he's not that dude. If we're talking about going up against, the 1-2 punches that we've seen around, and that's going to be there. And just to the blue line for a minute. Listen, I've had a lot of conversations with friends on this topic off air, going back to our chat last week when I said, pie in the sky, what's the best case scenario? And he said, well, let's just get them both from one team, and talking about Rasmus Andersson, Nazem Kadri. And
thank you. Here we go.
The fun thing is like, okay, what do you have to do to get that? And, keeping in mind that a guy like Nikolai Ehlers is on an expiring contract. I mean, a team like Calgary is not looking for players that are free agents at the end of the year. So, how deep do you want to go into your prospect pool? How many picks are you willing to go? What young players are you willing to trade? Because that is what will get you that sort of a return. But I dream about Rasmus Andersson playing along with Josh Morrissey. And that's when you can get into a situation like you just mentioned, like with the Hawks, or guess what, guys, get ready. Boom, you're going out for another 30 minutes a night. Yep. And if you can do that, it lightens the load on everybody else, and it gives you that competitive advantage when those guys are out there. And listen, Dylan DeMello has been great for the Jets, and we've heard all the analytics that he makes his partners better. If you had a real impact guy playing in that top pairing with Josh Morrissey, it changes everything, in my opinion. And, I don't know what is more, like, if it was one or the other, what the priority would be, because I think you can make a pretty valid argument that both of them are necessary if you truly want to go toe-to-toe with the heavyweights. But the bottom line is to satisfy either of those holes, it's a significant ask on the part of those other teams, and to get it done, especially done early, you are talking about making a major push in and probably giving away some assets that might have their fans have a lot of fans dropping their jaws.
Well, and it's one thing to do the Calgary trade, which is just awesome because it's to be the blockbuster to end all blockbusters here in Winnipeg. But in all reality, you're talking about, yes, like young assets, yes, picks, things like that. Probably 1 to 2 guys off the roster right now.
Oh, for sure.
We're probably talking Cole Perfetti, probably talking Alex Iafallo to make the cap dollars work. So, I'm not saying I'm against it or anything, but it would be a sizable acquisition. It would kind of remind me a little bit, though, man, of back in the day when the Rangers made a crazy deal in the scope of things, right? Where they were kind of in a similar position as the Jets were. And it was like, what was it? Like an 8-9 player trade. Glenn Anderson came through. Like it was guys all over the place, right? I mean, it could end up being something like that, but I mean, scared money doesn't make money. So like, if you want to go big and you believe in this group, I'm all ears for it. I'm done with I would say I'm out on the rental game. Unless it's like, a 4th or a 5th round pick going the other way. But if they're if you're gonna pay big time assets, but these guys are in the fold for a couple more years, I think it's time, right? I have no problem with that. And like you said there too, Huss, if you've got Hellebuck, if he brings his A game over to the postseason, there's not many teams that are going to be able to put 3 past him night in, night out. And wouldn't you like to have a little extra oomph on the back end and up front if that's going to be the case? So I think we're in the same wavelength here. It's just it's those damn NTCs too. That's the problem, right? Like if they didn't exist, this might be an easier discussion, but we'll see what happens for sure.
No, there's no doubt about that. Just one more before we go. It does set up a pretty juicy night on Saturday. That the Winnipeg Jets are going to be a hell of a lot better. You're going to have to go up against the Minnesota Wild. And listen, the Wild are usually in an ordinary mood at the best of times after getting whooped the way they did by Florida last night. Regardless of what happens in that game Friday night in the Twin Cities, I imagine that they will be in an ordinary mood, and it does set up a pretty interesting game. And listen, we've talked so much about the schedule and all that. The Jets have an opportunity here to kind of move on from 2 very underwhelming games where they got 2 of a possible 4 points against lesser competition and go into the break with some big time competition. And you know what? You got Minnesota at home on Saturday, and then that bizarre Monday afternoon game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, who, listen, much like the Vegas Golden Knights, they've really had the Jets' number over the last number of years. And, 2 more games to get it together, and then you go on your way and, get a little bit of rest before coming back and firing it up again at home against Ottawa on the 28th.
Yeah, and I know momentum can be a fickle thing, especially when you're talking like more of a macro sense. But it does feel like this can kind of go 2 different. Like you drop these next 2, which is you could play decent hockey and still find a way to do so pretty easily. You kind of get a little closer to panic mode than you would like, right? But even 2-3 points here, and you're feeling good about where you're at heading into the new year and after the break. And hey, let's not forget, they haven't been the greatest second half team these last few seasons, right? They found a way in the last few games last year to kind of turn things around, but you don't want that almost anvil hanging over your head like Wile E. Coyote. You've got things in control. To me, the schedule isn't an issue. You've had time to rest before the game against Minnesota Saturday. You're at home. That's the one where you need to take care of business. And then a Monday afternoon one, it's goofy as hell. It's something weird's going to happen in the game, but you take care of business against the Wild and you're feeling good about yourselves at the very least, regardless of what happens in that next one.
I want to know exactly how that game on Monday night or Monday came to be in the afternoon. And knowing the way the Leafs work, it would not surprise me at all if this was sort of done more for the players. Hey, listen, we'll do the afternoon game and then you guys can all get out of town in the evening and you'll be able to go on. Like, the bags are going to be packed on Monday afternoon. Like, the drinks at the cocktail bar are going to be ordered. The fellas are going to be saving a table.
Artie's
for these guys.
Artie's gonna pull the goalie with 2 minutes left in a tie game. Like, no OT tonight.
Well, I think it's way more for the home team than the Jets. I think it's actually an advantage in this situation to not be the home team. I mean, they're kind of going to be on the road, and I imagine there might be some guys that'll stick around or leave afterwards. It'll be a similar situation for both teams, but intrigued to see what we get on Monday night. But first things first, this team's got to step up and get ready to go against a very significant opponent. And the opportunity to sweep the Wild for the second time in 2 years. It should be a lot of fun. Hey, all the best to you and your family. Have a great Christmas, Brandon, if we don't talk to you before. And we'll catch up maybe later on next week and see what we've got from these next 2 games. And then look ahead to a fun resumption of the schedule with the Sens in town on the following Saturday night. And then the offseason champion, Nashville Predators, on New Year's Eve before the team gets to Colorado the following day on the 31st of December. We'll look forward to some new skates and plates coming up soon, and have a great holiday, pal.
Yeah, have a great holidays as well to you, the listeners, Remo, and we'll talk next week.
Appreciate it, Pete. There's Brandon Rewucki. Search Skates and Plates wherever you get your favorite pods for more on the Winnipeg Jets from Brandon and Tyson Rewucki. All right, we're going to talk some World Juniors in just a moment. We will have Gabriel Velarde and Nikolai Ehlers' comments from the game as well before we get into a little bit with Brian Munz later on. But just before we bring in our pal Shane Malloy, do want to thank and give a big happy holidays to all of our friends at Princess Auto. Appreciate their great support again this season and looking forward to a great 2025 with a proud Winnipeg company, founded here in Winnipeg, headquartered here in Winnipeg, and a great go-to spot for last-minute Christmas shopping because you know Princess Auto has the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. 2 Winnipeg locations, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West. Brandon as well, waiting for you, our friends out in the western part of the province. And you can think about those projects for 2025. Shop online, maybe give a little nudge to that special someone for what you want, or a Princess Auto gift card, but you can check it all out online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Well, Christmas party season's in full swing, and folks, if you have to, maybe bring something for the table at your next party, and you've got some whiskey lovers in the circle, get on down to Manitoba Liquor Marts before they're gone and grab the second issue of the Invitation series, which of course is the Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof, offering the well-known smooth, well-balanced taste of Canadian Club Classic, carefully aged and bottled at a higher proof for a full-body tasting experience. Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof just awarded gold at the 2024 International Wine and Spirit Competition. It is on sale now until it's gone, $79.95 at your local Manitoba Liquor Mart. So for entertaining, for your own personal use, or for a gift for the whiskey lover in your circle, get on down to MLCC right now and grab the Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof before it's gone. And just before we bring in Shane Malloy, a big thank you and a happy holidays to our friends at Wallace & Wallace, the fencing and overhead door specialists in town since 1946. Heading into the new year, if your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, they've got you covered with vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And if you need a new garage door, Wallace & Wallace has Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors, one perfect to match your home and add value to your home at the same time. Give them a call, 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also pop by and see them online, wallacefences.com, wallacedoors.com, or see them in person at their showroom down on Lawson Crescent off of Kenniston. Big happy holidays and Merry Christmas to our friends at Wallace & Wallace. All right, well, Christmas, you know what that means. World Junior Hockey Championships getting going on December 26th. And who better to talk about it than our pal Shane Malloy, the host of Hockey Prospect Radio, getting ready for the big tourney. Shane, best of the season to you, my friend. How are you?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you and Remis and all to your listeners out there. And I was actually just watching some of your commercials. That looks like pretty much my neck of the woods with the snowblower going out and everyone rushing back in to have a CC and ginger ale. Doesn't it say anything more like Canadian to have a CC and ginger ale? So there you go.
Yeah, there'll be a few of those, I think, around the holidays, and hopefully not too much snow blowing, but in both of our necks of the woods, that's just part of the drill for the next little while. Well, listen, part of the drill every Christmas is for Canadians is the World Junior Hockey Championships on home soil in Ottawa. And listen, I don't follow this as closely until we get more towards the draft. So it's always interesting to see the names that we know, the players that we've heard have been drafted. Sort of, we assume that many of them will be on the team. And I don't know, the reaction from this year's squad was kind of surprised of some players that we spent a lot of time talking about, not either in the mix or not making the cut. We talked about Seneke. Colby Barlow, not even invited to the camp. Were you surprised with the players that were invited, and how intrigued were you about the final roster that Hockey Canada's put together, considering all the Canadian talent that was eligible for the tourney?
Well, I think one of the things when you look at the roster, it's pretty clear and evident the style of team they wanted to have, particularly up front and on defense. On defense, particularly, it's the two-way defensemen that are safe. I thought that the picks, and nothing against the players because I think they're all very good players, but it was more safe. We didn't have that typical power play quarterback that we normally have, one or two of those. So obviously, Zane Perrick is one, Carter Yakimchuk is another that were omitted, were not even considered. And then on the forward ranks, Seneke is one, Barlow is another. Now Barlow, to his own admissions, hasn't had a very strong start. Coming from Owen Sound into Oshawa, he hasn't quite hit his stride, and that probably will end up happening after Christmas. But he's the kind of player I kind of like in those one-game tournaments. It's like once you get into the quarterfinals, semifinals, he's such a greasy, hard player to play against, and those games get a little bit more rough and tumble, and you need to have a little bit of intimidation. So sometimes they always want to take just who's playing the hottest and kind of hope to run that hot hand. So we're going to see what happens with Canada because they can't repeat what they did last year. They can't have a fifth spot. That can't happen, not on home soil. So there's a lot of eyes and there's going to be a lot of pressure, which gets put on the Canadian kids because of obviously we have TSN broadcasting it. Everybody's paying attention. It's become a national event. So comparative to, perhaps our American cousins or our European compatriots, it's pretty heavy in this country, and we sometimes put more pressure on these kids than they should have to shoulder.
Well, one guy that'll have a lot of pressure on him, maybe more so than most of his teammates, is Jet prospect Brayden Yager, who will be wearing the C for Canada, which I know everyone around here was quite excited. How does the second year in this tournament and getting the captaincy change things for a guy like Brayden Yager? And maybe if you could, for folks that maybe have missed our previous conversations about Yager, how his season's gone, where he's at going into being the leader of Team Canada.
Well, first off, he's had an excellent start to his season, and having that being a second year in the World Juniors, you know what to expect. You understand the internal pressure that you put upon yourself, and then how to distance yourself from the noise. There's a lot of noise that goes on at the World Juniors, particularly for the Canadian players. So they got to turn off their phones. Don't go on the internet. Don't go on a computer. Just huddle up with your teammates and just ignore everybody. And that's a lesson that I'm sure he's learned and that he's going to impart upon his teammates. And there's going to be a lot of pressure, not only on Brayden Yager, but Easton Count and Oliver Bonk because they're returning players. So that collective group with the other two assistant captains, they're going to have to come together and just help the nerves. Nerves pretty much probably won't happen until the quarterfinals, unless there's an upset somewhere in those preliminary games. So that's it's an honor for Brayden Yager. It's a great opportunity for him to learn and be a better leader and take those experiences moving forward. And I'm sure that the entire Winnipeg Jets staff, along with their player development department, is thrilled that he has this opportunity because it only makes you a better player.
I was going to ask you about the 2025 draft eligible players, and I believe there's 3 of them on Canada. But tell us about this Gavin McKenna, who's not even eligible for this year's draft.
Nope.
He's a 2026.
I know.
Is he sort of the next Canadian phenom that we'll be hearing a ton about over the course of the next 18 months before an NHL team calls his name?
Yes, I'm glad you said phenom instead of generational player. We tend to throw that around like far too often. A generation is actually a generation. But look, when you're already, that young and you're putting up 2 points a game, that says something about your offensive capacity. Look, his skill set's elite. His hockey sense is elite. I'm not even sure after this season whether he even stays in the Western Hockey League anymore. Now, I'm sure the Medicine Hat Tigers don't want me to say that, but
yeah,
I don't know how much more he can learn at the dub level. So I wouldn't be terribly shocked if he goes on and plays college hockey in the NCAA next year to play against kids that are like on average 3 years older than him. And that's not necessarily as talented, but bigger, stronger, faster. So all eyes are going to be on Gavin McKenna because he's such an incredible player, but you can't sleep on Matthew Schaefer, who potentially could be the first overall draft pick this year, and Porter Martone, who's going to be fighting with him for the first overall pick. Both those players should be in the top 3, along with James Haggins. Should be. So we're fortunate in the Canadian squad, we get to watch these kids early, fight their way through the World Juniors, then on into the NHL draft. So exciting opportunity for all the Canadian fans to watch 3 incredibly gifted players who are very, very young. We forget they're 17, 16 years of age.
You mentioned those draft players. I mean, one guy that we'd heard a lot about was a exceptional player status that is not even on the team is Michael Misa. Is his draft stock falling, or are there other guys that are just kind of stepping up and and taking those spots?
It's also about playing it safe and having guys who are a little bit older, more mature. But Michael Misa also, he's flirting with 2 points a game constantly already in the OHL. So for me, there's always a balance between taking the most talented players and then the ones that play a more mature game. And that's part of the decision-making of Hockey Canada's staff. And we'll see how it plays out. And if it doesn't go their way, then there's going to be yelling and screaming of why didn't you take some more talented offensive players? But then if it works out, nobody will really say anything. So we'll see how that works out in that respect. But there's going to be some pressure internally in Hockey Canada. They have to medal. You can't go 2 years in a row without medaling in this country. Otherwise, you're going to hear it. And the concerns have already been voiced already.
Speaking of concerns in Canadian hockey, I mean, I think the thing that we've talked the most about, certainly in relation to the Olympics and the 4 Nations, is goaltending. The lone Manitoban on the club is Carson Bjarnason with the Wheaties. He's in the part of the three goaltenders, Carter George and Jack Ivankovic. How do things shake up for the goalie? Do we have a starter already, and where does Bjarnason fit in this mix?
We don't have a starter already. I don't think there is a clear cut, but I think the edge would go to Carson because of his experience, and he's a big, big kid, and that matters. As athletic as George is, and Ivan is as well, there are smaller goaltenders, and sometimes in this tournament, it's just nice to be able to take up space if you can do that. So, and one thing I really like about Bjarnason is he has a little bit of that Grant Fuhr mentality of happy-go-lucky. Don't worry about it. That was on me. Goal gets scored, and he just, memory like a goldfish, forgets about it and gets right back into it. So I think that's really important in this tournament as well, because they're playing formidable teams. The Americans are, I would say are the front runner. They should be the gold standard coming in, and the Swedes are going to be tough, and the Czechs are always tough, and they have a really big team this year. Big, talented team. And if their goaltender, Michael Remis, if he comes to play, he's a 6'5", 6'6" goaltender. Boy, those 3 teams are going to be tough on Canada. So I think it's going to be highly competitive. And it's really unfortunate the Russians aren't here, because that would just make it even more tough. I think this tournament has really suffered not having the Russians there.
Shane, I'm just pulling up CoolBet and looking at the odds, the futures for this one, and the USA is actually a slight favorite at plus 135. Canada on home soil at plus 150. Then the Swedes at 6-1. Finns at 7-1. Should the US be the favorite in this tournament? And how would you sort of handicap it coming in before we drop the puck?
Yes, I have the Americans should be the favorite going in, and I think the odds are actually should be more favored to the Swedes, and they haven't even mentioned the Czechs. Like, honestly, I think the Czechs are a better team than the Finns, particularly because of their bigger, stronger team, and they're going to come gunning. Like, they have 7 forwards that are 6'2" or larger. They have 4 defensemen that are 6'2" and larger, and their goaltender is 6'6". So, like, I think CoolBets may have to reconsider. Hey, give me a call. Give me a call. You want to change your lines? I'll help you out.
Well, never mind.
Right?
How about we just get on the Czechs at 25-1? Total disrespect of Czechia.
Okay. Hey, look, tell me what the odds are for them to medal. And I'm telling your listeners right now, put some money on that. If you want a dark horse in, put your money on the Czechs to medal. Just a medal.
I will lean on the guys to get those up for us, and I will let you know what we get. But it's 25-1 to win the gold medal right now. Then you go the Swiss, 75, and then Slovaks, Latvians, Germans, and Kazakhstan, who are still part of this tournament. Shane, we kind of focused in on the draft eligible players for Canada. For people that are really into the NHL draft outside of the Canadian team, who are the top draft eligible players we should be keeping an eye on at the tourney?
Well, I think probably for the Americans, you're going to have to look at James Hagens because he's going to be fighting for number 1 Boston College kid. He's not very big at 5'10", but he's a dynamic player. Now we'll see. There hasn't been some finalizations for some rosters in the Americas, but if Logan Henzer plays as a defenseman, U.S. National Development Program, he's a player to watch. Blake Fiddler's another one, plays for the Edmonton Oil Kings, Western League kid. If he's on the roster, that's another one to look at. And then in Sweden, you certainly want to look at Victor Eklund. He's a dynamic offensive player as well. So, certainly some players to watch. And that's what we did for our 2 shows. We've already recorded 2 shows. We recorded a preview show, and then we recorded another show yesterday on players to watch. So we got 47 players that we profiled. So you're going to get the preview show 11 times on SiriusXM NHL Network Radio, and that's going to run from basically this weekend all the way to the 26th. We're going to give you 1 day off of listening to me and Brad, and then on the 28th and 29th, it's going to be another 2-hour show of players to watch. So by the end, you're going to get sick of listening to us, but that's the World Junior, so it happens every year.
Never Shane, never Shane. We love having you on the program and love the show on Hockey Prospect Radio. And again, those shows will be readily available at SiriusXM NHL Radio heading into the tourney. And of course, the puck drops on the 26th, Canada-Finland in the first game. And I mean, is that a nice matchup for Canada? I mean, how much pressure there is on this club. If you're not as high on the Finns, this might be a good way to kind of get this tournament on, get some momentum going on the first game, and obviously get the home fans behind them, because it can go a different way. You have a dud in the first game, and I think that can really affect a young team maybe negatively. There will be a lot on this tournament and on the shoulders of these young men going right into game number 1 against Finland.
I think one of the things I like the fact they're playing Finland first is Finland traditionally is a really hard-working team, and they hustle. So it's going to force you to match their level of urgency, their level of work ethic, and their grittiness. They come to play. So I think actually I would like to play the Finns first, or the Czechs. So now they're going to play the Czechs and the Swedes and the Swiss in their pre-tournament games. So those are nice to kind of get, your legs underneath you, get an idea of, okay, what are we working on? Like, what kinks in the armor we have? And then you're right into a game with Finland. I think that works out perfectly for Canada. Instead of going in playing a really like a lesser team like Kazakhstan or Latvia or Switzerland, I'd rather play a tougher team right at the front, and then sort of sandwich that with a couple like lesser teams in the middle, and then a tough team on the 31st on New Year's Eve.
Shane, great stuff as always. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and spend some time with friends and family over the next few days, because I know you're going to be quite occupied from the 26th right through to the first week of January.
Thank you, sir. Have a great holiday. Happy holidays to Remis and all your listeners, and keep warm in Winnipeg.
Right back at you, pal. Thanks so much. There is Shane Malloy, and again, Hockey Prospect Radio, Sirius XM, NHL Radio. Check it out for some great analysis and coverage of the World Junior Hockey Championships. All right, I see the Jets conversation is continuing, and lots of great trade opportunities, options, takes. Keep them coming. Love all the feedback. Just back to, we're going to bring in Brian Munz in just a couple of minutes. But, we had Brandon on, and then Shane was ready to go. So we didn't quite get to a little bit more of the feedback from last night. We heard from the coach. He wasn't happy. Let's hear from Gabriel Vilardi and Nikolai Ehlers. And Vilardi spoke afterwards. By the way, Rima, we should give a shout out to Cam. With none of the traveling media on this trip with the late deadlines and the quick 2-gamer. The Jets social staff getting into the mix and getting the stuff that Jet fans and we all need without the local media on site.
Yeah, it's tough times. That's not a lot of traveling media. Mike and Ken opting to sit this one out just because, back-to-back with a late start. I mean, the time zones and everything. It's going to be past the print date. So shout out to Cam, who was in there. I texted him. I said, Cam, great questions. Got that great answer from Arneal, asking him what he saw in the winner from the Ducks. He's like, you all saw it. I did enjoy that. And Cam messaged me and said, first time asking questions for a couple of years. So it was like riding a bike for him. So well done for the Jets for putting out that great content. Some good answers here from Ehlers and Vilardi. Not happy with their performance yesterday.
No, we'll get to that right away. And hey, BA Split, thanks very much for the super chat. He said, this is for us and his rant yesterday. Great perspective. Be annoyed by the losses, but enjoy the wins. This team will look different come playoffs. Team's never as good or as bad as it seems. Beers on me, Hus. BA, appreciate you, buddy. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you. Yeah, I mean, listen, this is what we do, and certainly fans do. I mean, we talk about what just happened, but I think these grandiose takes that this team will never do anything in the playoffs because you lose a 3-2 game to the Anaheim Ducks in December. I mean, I don't know. I'm not there. And to be honest, I think just painting an entire team with a brush based on what had happened in the past is a fool's game too. I mean, listen, I'm not sitting here telling you this team's going to go win the Stanley Cup. I am telling you, though, that writing them off is foolish. And I am telling you that I think this team is going to be significantly different by the time we get to the actual Stanley Cup playoffs. So in the meantime, it's about winning games. It's about making the playoffs. And it's about moving forward and developing as a team. And I would challenge anybody in the chat that if I asked you at the start of the season, hey, we're going to be heading into Christmas with 2 games to go, and the Jets have a 3-point lead in the Central Division, and I believe still the most wins in the National Hockey League, I don't know. I would take that. But again, like Arneal said, you don't hand the cup out in December. So a lot of road left to go, a lot of work left to be done. But overall, as ugly as last night was, it's been a great start so far. And if anything, if there is a positive, a silver lining of last night's dud in the duck pond, hopefully the team gets its act together and is ready to go when we're all up in Section 316 for the game on Saturday night. Speaking of that, I mentioned this right off the bat, but it is the holiday game. Everyone should be wearing their holiday best. I know some WSTers have already planned some festive costumes for the game. Go to winnipegjets.com/WST we've added some more seats in the section. So if you don't have tickets for the game, come and join us. Your WST ticket comes with a beer as well, or a beverage of your choice. You'll get that through the 360 app. So make sure you've got that unloaded. And there are going to be some great, exciting holiday prizes, perfect for holiday gifting or decorating as well. And then over the school break, we've got a bunch of games. I mean, Sens on Saturday the 28th, the New Year's Eve game against the Preds, and then right back at it in the new year. The Sharks on the 2nd of January. We get a chance to see Macklin Celebrini in person for the first time. That should be fun. And that's the first ever Ukrainian Heritage Night. The Wings on Saturday, January 4th. That's a 2 o'clock game, I believe. And 7 p.m. versus the Preds on Tuesday, January 7th. Beat the Winter Blues night. And a cooler bag giveaway to the first 5,000 fans. Should be a good one. Again, you can get winnipegjets.com/tickets for all those games. But for our game, the game of the month, do winnipegjets.com/WST and grab those final tickets before they're in. All right, before Munzy comes in, let's hear from Gabriel Vilardi. Here's what he had to say about the turnaround in the third period and then losing it in the final 5 minutes.
Yeah, just different. I mean, had a few power plays. We got a big goal. Took the lead, lost the lead. Just hockey.
What'd you see on that Scheifele goal that gave your team the lead?
I mean, just that's Kyle doing what he does, making a great play, and then rush and really good move in the zone, and just two players that are really skilled and really good players.
What's been working so well lately on the power play for your group?
I think just the fluidity of our units and having an attack mindset. Yeah.
What was it like to have Nikolai Ehlers back in the lineup tonight?
I mean, it's huge for him. It's huge for us. He's a big part of our team. Thought he played really well, and yeah, he's such a difference maker at 5-on-5 in his individual skill. He can make a play and change the outcome of a game at any point when he's on the ice. So it's obviously a huge boost for us moving forward.
All right, so there's Gabriel Vilardi kind of going through the ups and downs of the third period and the welcoming back Nikolai Ehlers. Here's what Vilardi had to say about the way the team started in the first.
I mean, we didn't do anything in the first period. It was just Eric. He was the only one that was playing in the first period, so can't do much. I mean, obviously, I don't know if we came in the intermission there at 0-0, so I mean, he did a good job of keeping us in it, but the first period was terrible. Took us too long to get into the game.
It was a tie game going into the third. We knew we hadn't played our best. We were a little better in the third, but not good enough. We didn't deserve that win.
What was it like to be back in the lineup, and how would you assess your own game?
Felt nice to be back out there. Playing a game is it's what you want. You don't want to practice. You don't want to sit out and watch your teammates go to work. My game wasn't very good. Had some good shifts, but also some really bad stuff. So I got some work to do.
All right, so there's Nikolai Ehlers on his performance, and again, the coach didn't have a lot nice to say about really anything last night. The one thing Nikolai Ehlers did do was take part of a 9-second power play goal that got the team back on even terms midway through the second period. Here's Ehlers on the pass to Vilardi for the goal that ended up getting the Jets back to even.
It was not a pass. It wasn't a shot. I don't know what that was, but he's pretty good around the net and was able to get that puck and put it in the back of the net.
How do you describe the effort of a player like Eric Comrie?
Yeah, he didn't deserve that today.
It was a lot of traffic.
Our goalies, I said that in the first intermission, our goalies give us a chance to win every single night, and he did that again tonight. We weren't good enough in front of him. Yeah, it's disappointing, and it sucks when when you have goalies playing as well as they do. So we got to hold each other accountable for what we're doing out there. So and we're not doing that. So we got some work to do.
All right, there's some work to be done from Nikolai Ehlers and the Winnipeg Jets. Travel day today, a little R&R practice tomorrow heading into the weekend. And again, they will get the Wild on the second of back-to-backs. It has been the case where the Jets so far this season have been sort of that team traveling the night before the game. And listen, regardless of what Minnesota's schedule is, the Jets will need to be much better Saturday night if they want to beat the Anaheim Ducks. Now, listen, John Waldman's coming up in a minute. But listen, before we get to that, we did play a couple of those comments from Andrew Ladd and Blake Wheeler a little earlier in the week. And this is from the Beyond High Performance podcast hosted by Dan Leffelar, who's worked with both Andrew Ladd and Blake Wheeler. And I would suggest listening to the entire thing. We've got a couple other comments that, really interesting stuff that we thought we'd play for you right now. Here's Andrew Ladd on, and maybe this ties into what we saw and didn't see from the Jets last night. This is Andrew Ladd on what people don't understand about the emotional level you need to get to play in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that is the hardest part about playing professional sports and hockey in general, because and I think that's what makes hockey one of the hardest sports to play is the emotional level you need to get to 82 times a year, right? It's not like football where you're playing once a week. Like I always say that, like, you put me in a football game, like I'll get ramped up to play once a week. Like I'll be running through a wall. Like I can do that. Now when you get into a hotel at 3, 4 in the morning, you got to get up and play the next day, and you're emotionally like you got to get your energy back up to that level. And for me, it was like, hey, when I played my best when I was pissed off and like I wanted to hurt people on the ice. Not that I actually wanted to hurt them, but like that mentally, that's where I had to get to. Like I was going through people, like an intensity, and there's a certain level, a certain intensity I had to get to day in, day out, and that has that drains you in between, right? So it's like. Even when like thinking about coaches, and a lot of times it's like systematic and work ethic, and it's like, man, dude, like where's everybody energy at? And I thought like we both played for Paul Maurice, and like his gift is like helping people get their energy up, helping them get excited to play, helping them like, and he was exceptional at that. And it was amazing seeing what that did for that group day in, day out, and just how much the level of play raised because of like the excitement to play. And the intensity that we were able to get to from his leadership and his like inspiration before games, in between games.
All right, so there's Andrew Ladd on it, and here's just one more clip from the other former Jet captain, Blake Wheeler, and he sort of adds on to Ladd's comment about what it takes to get up for these games on a very long and grueling 82-game season in the NHL.
And that's where me as an emotional person, like that was my battery every game, was like tapping into the emotion. And, so what was really challenging for me as a leader was like after the game, you got to dial that down and talk to the media in a way that's like, respectful. And like, I'm like a 10 out of 10 on the emotion scale, like for the last 3 hours. Now I just got to like, I can't get there.
There's some very famous clips of you having moments like that. Yeah.
I know. And I think, I don't think, that's where some of the media stuff in Winnipeg, they probably don't like me very much, but it was never personal. And an hour after every game, like I could have a great conversation, even if I had the worst game of my life. It's just like 10 minutes after, I'm still here.
You're just like, ugh. Yeah,
I'm still, I can't come down that fast. So, and that's where I was getting towards the end of my career, like tapping into that resource, like 82 times a year, 10, 11, 12. It's like, my body, can I still go play a hockey game? Hell yeah. Like I could still play. It's just like the emotional get up 82 times is like, I don't want to do that. Right. Like that's kind of where you get to, where it's just like, there's only so much gas in the tank for that. So no, I think that's a great point by Ladder.
Remis, I had to laugh listening to that comment from Blake. And I'm sure no one had more of a chuckle if they've heard this than Paul Friesen of the Winnipeg Sun when Blake talked about being at a certain level right after games and dealing with the media.
Yeah, I mean, we played clips of him on the show being a little prickly, most memorably when they got eliminated from the playoffs. And I think you have to get to some kind of intensity there, and it maybe takes a bit to come down. And I always wonder how I would react personally if I played an ass game and had to answer the questions like why you sucked so bad. Even doing this show, if I had to come out after
after a few extra mutes during the show.
If I had a few mutes and people just started asking me like, "Hey, why'd you suck so bad?"
What happened in that first segment? I mean, it didn't seem like you were prepared.
What are you going to do?
Mutes. What's going on?
Yeah, how are you going to regroup and get better for the next show? I don't know. And you had to do that every day. I always wonder how I would react. How I would react having to do that every day at work. But that's part of the job. That's why they get paid, millions of dollars, and why people are paying money to go see them.
That's why you get the millions that you make here at WST to make it happen each and every day.
That whole conversation beyond high performance, and I know there's some clickbaity headlines saying, that clip there from Wheeler was saying that he retired, but I didn't really hear it that way. But
no. We'll at the end of this season, if we haven't heard that Blake Wheeler has played or done an official retirement, then I'll probably think, okay, you're missing a year, it's done. But I think there is a non-zero chance that Blake plays at some point this season. Couple other things I should just quickly mention from the NHL yesterday before we bring in John Waldman. Capo Caco's got a new home ream. Traded to the Seattle. Capo Caco traded.
Oh, Caco. I thought you said Capo Kakinen. Sorry, from the Moose.
No.
Okay.
Capo Caco.
Caco. Okay.
He traded to the Seattle Kraken yesterday for a blue liner, a third rounder, and a fifth rounder. So the time is done for the number 2 overall pick in New York, and you kind of thought that might happen after some of his public comments earlier this week. But there was an interesting trade as well for a couple blue liners, someone that I think we've talked about on this show before. That was Carrier from Nashville. He's going to Montreal for Morgan Barron's brother, Justin Barron, on his way to Nashville, going from one non-playoff team in the East to a non-playoff team in the West.
Yeah, and Carrier just signed a contract with them for, I think, 3 years. He's in the first year, and they trade him. Barry Trotz trying to free up some salary. I think this is, Montreal gets a nice defenseman. So that trade a little surprising. And Capo Caco, I mean, he'd been a healthy scratch, spoke about the team, but it seems like whatever's going on with the Rangers, it started when they put Gaudreau on waivers after he wouldn't waive his no-trade clause. They traded away Trouba, the captain, basically told him, we're going to put you on waivers or trade you. Zibanejad's now playing well. Nothing's going right with the Rangers, so I think Seattle got a nice pickup there in Capo Caco. I don't know. I got Moose on the brain there. Here this weekend. Yeah. It's Capo.
Not Capo Kakinen. Different Capo in the league. Listen, now we're going to have Brian Munz jump on with us in just a couple minutes, but first let's bring in our pal John Waldman from the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame, who joins us now. And what an awesome backdrop John's coming in here with, the 1972 to 1995 banner, some more great stuff down at the Sports Hall of Fame. John, best of the season to you. What's going on?
It's a busy season. It's definitely the best of the season, and we can say it's the toast of the season with the Winnipeg Whiskey Festival coming up, and just a crazy busy time in sports, and it's been an interesting historic year, if we can say it like that, within the Manitoba sports scene.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a star-studded Hall of Fame class earlier this year with the big event, but of course, your job is 12 months a year and a perfect tie-in. I mean, we had that great whiskey tasting event in such a great venue at the Hall of Fame last year with our great sponsors at Canadian Club. And You guys are still very much a big part of the Whiskey Festival. As much as that is the kind of the one time a year for whiskey lovers to get together and try all these great products and have a great time out. It is a huge fundraiser for the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame.
It is, and it goes towards our operating and programming budget. So when we talk about what happens at our gallery, and when we do our events that we do for schools, when we do for community groups, this is where that money goes to, along with the baseline of preserving and celebrating our athletic history here in the province.
So fill us in now. The Whiskey Festival is coming up. It is February 28th. And March 1st. And this always sells out. It's a hugely popular event every year. But just in advance of Christmas, we thought we'd bring you on because not only can we do a little bit to help the Sports Hall of Fame, probably help some listeners make sure they get their hands on tickets, and of course take advantage of the early bird offer and the early bird deadline.
Absolutely. The early bird deadline strikes on Monday, January 13th. But yeah, it's for that hard to shop for person in your life that you are looking for something different, that you don't just want to get them the usual gift of, a massage, or you don't want to you're scrambling to find that rice piece that they'll enjoy for their sports cave or something like that. This is a completely different opportunity, and a lot of people that have been buying tickets so far for the Whiskey Festival say that I want something that's an experience, and this is an experience. This is either 2 hours or 3 hours of fine whiskey tasting, along with some other incredible spirits that are being offered by 60 plus vendors across the landscape. You're going to be able to sample whiskeys from not only from Canada and the U.S., but from Ireland, from Japan, from India, and from other locales. And you're going to be immersed in an environment where you're going to be able to talk to the experts, quite honestly. You'll be able to hear firsthand what that distilling process is like and what the flavor palette is that you're looking for, along with the accompaniment on site of some incredible, exquisite food, courtesy of the RBC Convention Center, along with some advice that you'll be able to pick up from those individuals.
So again, it's the 28th of February and March 1st. The early bird deadline's Jan 13, but I would suggest if you want to pick those up, do them now and get them in the hopper and ready to maybe stick in a stocking or under the tree on the 25th. John, very simply, how do people go about taking advantage of the early bird offer and getting those tickets now?
Absolutely. You just go to winnipegwhiskeyfestival.com and you can call the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame at 204-925-5936, and we can walk you through the process. We can help you pick out your tickets. And if you're in the position where you're looking for a package for either a group of friends, or you're looking for a corporate package to say thank you to your staff or to your clients, this is the absolute opportunity. And we do offer the 2 nights. So there is the more corporate Friday nights where you do get those larger groups, and then the social time on Saturday. So the experience is the same both nights. Both have, along with the samplings, you also will have the opportunity to purchase exclusive bottles from Liquor Mart, our presenting sponsor and a fantastic partner on this event. So it's really something that I highly encourage if you are looking for something that's a unique gift or a unique experience in the new year, that this is something that you cannot miss. Hey,
one other thing we should mention, again, this event, has been growing. It sells out every year. It is moving this year to the RBC Convention Center. Mm-hmm. And with that, a marked increase in both vendors and products we're sampling. So a real win-win for the event, but also for people taking part.
Absolutely. You're going to be able to explore everything on one floor. You'll be able to check out a larger number of vendors, as you were saying. You'll be able to sample a little bit of an additional amount as well. I think that this is something that is really going to be a game changer, and it's something that we are looking very, very excited about. And from the people that have purchased so far and the vendors, they're amped. There's no other way to put it. This is a big excitement piece for us to be in this new venue and to be providing a new experience for everybody who's attending. It's an old marketing tagline for sure, but it's the new look, same great taste. You're still going to get the experience of a lifetime coming here.
Again, folks, the number to call for tickets, 204-925-5936. And where can they get them online again, John?
At winnipegwhiskeyfestival.com.
Jump on those right now. John, have a great holiday season. Been a great 2024, and looking forward to big things at the Whiskey Festival with Winnipeg Sports Talk and the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame coming up in 2025. Thanks for jumping on with us.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff. All right, there is John Waldman down at the Sports Hall of Fame, and we potentially are working on a similar event to what we did last year, right in and around the Whiskey Festival. Stay tuned to Winnipeg Sports Talk coming up in January for details on that. All right, we will get to the Cool Bet lines, but we should give a big cheers to our friends at Little Brown Jug. First off, I mean, check it out. Big party this weekend for WSTers at the rink. I know there'll be some 1919s and generics enjoyed, but with the holidays, Little Brown Jug is going to be all over the city at festivities. But a big cheers to the gang down in the Exchange at our favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
We're not just for the showboats or the champions. We're here for the good ones, the ones who work hard and show up for others, not to get recognized, but because it's the right thing to do. We'd like to think that our good intentions show up in our beer. We keep working to perfect it, not because we want fame or fanfare, but because you deserve it. 1919, the good you deserve.
All right, and hey, shout out to our friends at Boston Pizza. And again, if you are coming to the game with all of us on Saturday, more than welcome to pop by BP City Place beforehand. I think my plan is to catch the first half of the Ravens-Steelers game in the lounge there at BP City Place, and then jump over and meet the gang up in the that Michelob Ultra Lounge, top floor, kind of on the Portage side, which is where we'll be going if we want to get early access, and then, of course, intermissions down at the Hangar Bar outside 316. But speaking of Boston Pizza, in addition to a great spot to watch Jets hockey and certainly for City Place, get there before and after games. If you need gift cards, folks, check out this great deal from BP right now. Buy a $50 Boston Pizza gift card and get a free $10 bonus card. And listen, if you have a long list or need to get a whole bunch of gift cards for a company or office, if you buy $1,000 in gift cards or more, you'll receive an additional 10% in gift cards, which will work out to a 30% bonus on gift card orders of $1,000 or more. So spend $1,000, get an extra $300 in gift cards. Unbelievable deal to make your dollar go a little bit further this holiday season. Grab those at your local Boston Pizza, and still time to maybe do a little gathering at BP. You can enjoy the holiday menu in the dining room, have a casual party in the sports bar, or the BP catering team can set up and serve at your office or home. Saturday, big day, Saturday night game against the Minnesota Wild. We'll see you at BP City Place before the game. And again, pop by and take advantage of those great gift card deals and the new holiday menu at your local Boston Pizza. And ahead of Saturday, which will be in all likelihood the busiest shopping day of the year, I suggest you get down and take care of as much of it in one stop as you can at the sports superstore in town, Royal Sports. They are stocked to the ceiling with great gift ideas for the sports fans in your family. If you got a big Jet fan in the circle, you need a jersey, you need a hoodie, you need a Q-zip, a hat, a toque. Royal Sports has the biggest selection of Jets merchandise you will find literally anywhere. Tons of great exclusives for Bomber gear as well, not to mention all 32 NHL teams, the entire National Football League, Jays and MLB, Raptors and NBA, international soccer, the biggest hockey section in town, skates, even for beginners to get you on the river this winter. It's all there at Royal Sports, ready to be put under the tree on Christmas Day. And while you're at it, make sure to check out all the cool stuff on the King's Skate, Snow, and Surf side. Some great gift ideas there, including the Herschel and Yeti sections. Follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops, sale information, and, of course, great holiday gift ideas. And before the 25th, make sure to get into Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway. We had Corey Johnson on the show earlier this week talking about Breezy Bend hosting the Manitoba Open this year. Thought a perfect time to welcome in at the holidays our old pal Brian Munz, now with Golf Manitoba, to fill us in on the future of the tournament and the new 5-course rotation for the Manitoba Open. Let's bring in Munzy right now on WST. Munzy, best of the season, pal. Great to have you back on WST.
Great to see you, Huss. Remo, hope you guys are doing well. It's that time of the year. It's kind of cool. We're talking golf on possibly one of the coldest days we've had lately here. But, yeah, great to catch up again for sure.
No doubt about it. Listen, I certainly want to touch on the local hockey squad with you, but let's get down to business first and foremost. Huge announcement from Golf Manitoba this year on the future of the Manitoba Open, and obviously we do a ton of work and called Breezy Bend home and had Corey Johnson on a couple days ago to talk about Breezy hosting the Manitoba Open. But from a Golf Manitoba perspective in the Manitoba Open, I mean, just incredible news for the local golf scene, with a 5-course rotation announced this year for the Manitoba Open going into the future. I mean, tell us about it from the Golf Manitoba end and the significance of having these 5 great courses all involved in the biggest tournament of the year.
Well, I think first and foremost, it talks about how important the event is for all of us here in Manitoba. It brings so many people together. It's obviously for a great charity with the True North Youth Foundation. And to watch how PGA Tour Americas, now that it's branded, has been able to continue to grow this event. Like, I think of it back in the late 2000 or kind of mid 2000s to 10 when it was at Pine Ridge. You and I were there watching all the time, and then they moved it to Southwood. Then it was at Niagara for a while, and then back to Southwood, and now to have some other courses involved here. It's great for golf in the province, right? It really showcases a number of these top-end private clubs that Winnipeg has to offer right now. And also, I think it adds a little excitement for the players too, right? Anywhere you can go somewhere new and try and show how good you are in different conditions. Obviously, all 5 have a uniqueness to them that will be really cool to see here over the next 5 years, starting next year at Breezy.
Yeah, so just for folks that maybe missed the announcement, Breezy will be the 2025 championship. The rotation continues to Elmhurst in 2026. Glendale will be the host in 2027. Pine Ridge in 2028. And then back to Southwood, who's been such a great host the last few years, in 2029. Basically been able to put together 5 of the, best courses in the city and the province, and involve it so that I imagine, because I mean, like, I'm sure you can speak to the great job that Southwood's done for the past couple of years, but there is a lot that goes into it, and it's probably tough for a club and a membership to do that on a yearly basis. But people, and I think all the courses would like to be involved and have that prestige, but maybe just not on a yearly basis.
Well, that's the challenge, right? Because I think the only thing that might have been a positive in COVID was how big golf got. And, we're lucky right now. It continues to be where it is with, so many people playing, from juniors who are 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, picking up a club for the first time, to, people that are right to the end. They love to get out and play golf. And, I tell the story so many times. It's the 1 or 2 or 3, maybe 4 times a year where my 13-year-old son, myself, who Huss is probably going to turn 50 here in a couple months, and my dad, who's in his early 80s, can spend 4 or 5 hours together, and none of us grab our phone or are deterred to something else, right? So it brings people together. It's obviously great from a corporate standpoint, where you can get out and really get to hang out with people for a long period of time, again, in today's world, without a phone or a computer in front of you. So it's great from that lifestyle of it. But I think you're bang on with, bringing these events to 5 different courses where the members have a bit of a feeling now that it's theirs, right? Like, if you want to go to 2025, what Corey Johnson and Chris Enos will put together at Breezy Bend Country Club, it's a sacrifice for the members. There's no question about it, because you take away 4, 5, 6 days of tee times, but the preparation that goes into it, right? Like, how thin are the fairways going to be? How thick is the rough going to be? Like, those are all challenges that everybody's going to have to play through. So It'll be neat to see the golf that we watch on television right in front of us now with these 5 different venues. And, you and I play out there, how often are these guys maybe on the first hole? Are they going to drive the green, or are they going to lay up on the opening shot, try and put it to within 2 feet, make their bird and move on, right? Like there's different strategies all the way through. When you look at all 5 of these courses, they've done it before at Pine Ridge. What are they going to do on number 9? The hole that drives everybody absolutely crazy. Like that's kind of your determining factor in a lot of rounds, right? These guys could be 3-4 under by the time they walk off the 8th green, and then all of a sudden you get to 9 and it's a 4 or 5, possibly sometime for guys, maybe higher. So it's going to be a ton of fun.
I playing at Breezy and knowing the incredible job that Craig, their superintendent, has done.
Yeah.
I mean, from a golf course perspective, I can't wait to see how it progresses as you get closer to the tournament. And maybe for someone like me with my short and straight granny golf, I'll just keep it in the middle of the fairway while all my buddies are bombing it and then spending 10 minutes trying to find their ball. This could be a benefit for me. But joking aside, I mean, this is going to be really interesting to see the talent of this tour come to some of these other local courses. And I think much like we saw at Southwood last year, the players are so good. We will see some low numbers. I know Corey said the course record is officially on notice, I think, going into this event. But it really is. I mean, I just think about that final pairing at Southwood this past year. A guy like Neil Shipley, who we were just watching at the Masters and very quickly was on the PGA Tour shortly afterwards. It's a real opportunity for people involved in golf and even the most casual golf fans to come and see guys that we'll be seeing, on Sunday afternoons on CBS very soon with Jim Nantz calling what they're up to.
Well, think about it, right? Like you referenced what we just saw this year at Southwood. John Kiefer wins at 26 under par, and he shoots a 63 in his opening round, and we're like, wow, that's pretty good. Like it's fun to watch, right? So tell me how you look at this, because from a golf fan standpoint, I love watching guys make birdies and eagles. I don't need to watch them at the U.S. Open go 4 over par or 6 over par or whatever it is. Like you and I can do that. We want to watch them go deep. So for Kiefer to shoot 63, then he goes 2 better in round 2. He shoots a 61. The next day comes back to reality, adding 10 strokes to his game at 71, and then finishes the event at minus 26. Like, it's neat to watch kind of the roller coaster that these guys have to go through. Joey Savoy finishes in a tie for second with Neil Shipley, and you allude to that final group. Like you've got a Canadian that's right there in the mix that adds to a lot of fun for all of us that grew up in this country playing the game. So that's kind of what PGA Tour Americas is all about, right? Giving these players an opportunity to show their stuff before, as you allude to, literally we watch them sitting on our couch at the big tour down the road, just like Aaron Cockrell's trying to do right now full time.
Well, absolutely. I mean, Aaron Cockrell, a great friend of the show. And I'll tell you what, I mean, with this tournament being at Breezy in 2025, the guy that I'm most interested to see that I assume will be in the field is, of course, with the 4-time Manitoba amateur, defending amateur champion of Braxton Kuntz. And, he's finishing up his NCAA career. I would presume that by then he'll probably already be playing professional tournaments, but an opportunity to play on this tour at his home course where he has played so many rounds. I have a feeling there'll be some big galleries for Brax and an incredible opportunity early in his pro career to make some noise against incredible competition.
Well, I think that's the excitement of it, right? Because he's been able to play in it now for a few years. And, he and I have talked about it a little bit because he's obviously dominated the Not Auto Court men's amateur here for the last 4 years. And when he announced that he was joining Team Canada's Next Gen program here, 2 months ago-ish, that he's probably going to have a chance to go for 5. So that gets him an exemption, we believe, again, if the tour offers it, which we would hope they would, for him to play. And then some other Manitobans, right? Travis Fredberg's been right on the edge of it. It goes to Elmhurst in 26. Marco Trosteniak has turned pro down south. He's going through his maturation process. So we could have some really fun local names on that leaderboard and kind of see how this all plays out. But I'm with you, just to kind of watch where Braxton's been able to develop his game all the way through. It's been neat to see here over the last what is it now, 4 years, I guess, that I've been doing this on a full-time basis.
Hey, just Brian, quickly, you mentioned, tell us a bit about that Next Gen program and the sort of opportunity that it provides for Braxton moving on post NCAA.
Yeah, so it's really the top handful of golfers that Golf Canada has identified. I'm sure Derek Ingram, the good Winnipeggers, probably had a bit of an influence there to make sure that his home province is involved in it. But at the end of the day, you've got to be able to play. So Braxton's wrapping up his college career at Ball State. I know he's back home in the province here right now for close to a month for the holiday season. And then he's been given all the tools by Golf Canada, heads down to the Arizona area for a bit of extra training, obviously, with Golf Canada's coaching staff, and, gets to take advantage of the mental standpoint, strength and conditioning, all of it that has really turned into these golfers' lifestyle now. It's not the guys that are the John Daly-esque anymore, figure-wise maybe. These guys are studs. They're athletes all the way through. So he's been able to take advantage, and it's going to be fun to be able to see what he gets out of that program and what he's able to give back to Canada as well, that I know he's excited about.
Well, we'll look forward to catching up with Brax again, and of course Aaron Cockrell as well, as we look ahead to the golf season. It's crazy. I mean, the Century's coming up for the PGA Tour, and then we're sort of back at it into the new year. Again, you can head over to Golf Manitoba for all the details on the 5-course rotation for the Manitoba Open on PGA Tour Americas beginning 2025 this summer in August at Breezy Bend Country Club. Munzy, can't have you on the program without quickly asking you what you've thought about the squad so far this year. I mean, last night's game notwithstanding, pretty nice start for your pal Arnie behind the bench.
Yeah, we've texted back and forth a lot. I've been to a few games. Haven't got to as many. I'm kind of on Uber duty for my son now more often than not. So, and I'll be honest, I'll fully declare I did not stay up till midnight to watch the end of the game or close to whatever time it finally got done. But I watched the highlights. I watch the highlights every day, and I saw the heartbreak for Eric Comrie, who's just, as we all know, the greatest kid in the world. Not a kid anymore, but geez, to have it happen like that in the last half minute of the game, that would have, and is still to me, the thing that I look at, the way this team is playing right now, it's the consistency, and we're all excited about it. Connor Hellebuck, Eric Comrie have been fantastic between the pipes. They've given him a chance every night, and it's exciting to see the goal scoring that this team has been able to do. They're fun to watch, and from a fan standpoint, which kind of I've turned on to now that side, it's great to go to the rink whenever you can or watch them on TV.
Munzy, great stuff. All the best to you and the family for the holidays. And maybe we'll have to pop by and see you at the simulator at some point over the course of the winter and get ready to tackle Breezy Bend next year. Good stuff. I see it up there right now. Hey, listen, thanks for doing this. Let's get you back on early in 2025. Look ahead to the golf season and talk a bit more puck, pal. Thanks so much.
Anytime, guys. Happy holidays.
All right, good stuff with Brian. Happy holidays to him, and fun to have Munzy on the show today. All right, let's get over to the Cool Bet lines tonight because we got a pretty packed night of NHL action. And we got a big Thursday nighter in the National Football League as well. Starting off with the pucks, Jersey's in Seabus take on the Jackets. New Jersey minus 212 favorites. The Lightning are minus 222 home faves against the Blues. The LA Kings, finishing up this epic road trip, are in Philly. That number's gone down a little bit. They're an even bigger favorite than they were before, minus 164 for LA. The Predators are minus 154 favorites at home, looking for win number 10 on the season. They're taking on Pittsburgh. The Kraken are now minus 143 favorites in Chicago against the Blackhawks. Ottawa with Linus Ullmark on an absolute heater right now. 2 shutouts in the last 3 games. Ottawa's minus 133 road favorites in Calgary against the Flames. Calgary 11-4-2 at home, plus 113. Not bad if you like the Flames tonight. The Edmonton Oilers taking on the Bruins. Oilers minus 182 faves. The Golden Knights are minus 172 favorites at home against the Vancouver Canucks, who are playing the second in of back-to-backs. And the Colorado Avalanche, with former Shark Mackenzie Blackwood in net, go into the tank to take on San Jose. Colorado minus 250. And the Sharks plus 205. If you head over, let me just get this up here. If you head over to the combo cards for hockey, Pat and I have put together a little special for tonight, a 3-gamer. We like the Kraken in Chicago. We like the Oilers to beat the Bruins, and we like Vegas to beat the Canucks. That one was plus 316. It is boosted to plus 364. And then we get to the hockey, or the football tonight, I should say. Think about this one, Remis. Denver and LA. And now this is, I think, the first time they flexed a Thursday game. This game was supposed to be Sunday. I saw a big write-up in the Athletic earlier today about just how much this move from Sunday to Thursday screwed fans who had planned to go to LA for this game. Both of these teams look to be in very good playoff position, but it is sort of a big game between these two as to who might get the 6th seed and potentially avoid likely the Bills as the 7th seed in the first round of the playoffs. Chargers 2.5-point favorites at home with a banged up Justin Herbert.
Ooh, I don't know about that one, Hassan. Is it really ever a home game for the Chargers? Denver, Bo Nix, talk about rookie quarterbacks. He's really impressed this year. Defense has been solid, and the Chargers have really disappointed over the last bit. So maybe I lean Denver on this one, but I think
I like Denver too tonight.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm glad we're on the same page there. But Justin Herbert, I mean, he showed flashes this year, but since J.K. Dobbins has been hurt, they're pretty one-dimensional in terms of having to throw. They don't really trust Gus Edwards and Vidal in the backfield. So I'll go with Denver here.
Yeah, I'm and listen, you can get plus money on the plus 2.5 as well. If you like Denver tonight, you want to take the 2 points. I did. I'll take that plus 102. Denver plus 2.5. If you like Denver just to win straight up, I think there's a lot of value there as well. Plus 132 for the Broncos. Now, I'm just looking in the combo cards. I don't think our same gamer is up for the this game yet. So I'll see. Hopefully we'll get that later on. It'll either be in the combo cards or in the exclusives. But we are taking Bo Nix over 20.5 completions. Cortland Sutton, 63 or more receiving yards. And the good old Thursday night special, over 3.5 field goals. I think that one came in at around 5 or 6 to 1, but that'll be up a little bit later on in the combo cards or in the exclusives. But you can get to that right now. Don't forget to put your picks in. And if you're lucky enough to be alive in fantasy football, make sure to lock in your lineups. I do have Cortland Sutton going tonight, so maybe that's a little bit of a homer pick taking him, but he really is the number one receiver right now. And I just like Denver in this case. I just think there's too many injuries, a real tough turnaround for the Chargers, and Justin Herbert is getting beat up, and man, he's going to have to deal with that Denver pass rush, which is, I believe, number one in the league in sacks. It's all there for you. You got the college football odds up for the playoff beginning this weekend. The heavyweight championship, the world boxing, Usyk versus Fury 2 is up there. Futures for the world juniors, as we talked about. They've even got the Spengler, Four Nations face-off, the PWHL. It is all there for you at CoolBet. If you haven't played a CoolBet before, use the promo code WST when you're making your first deposit. Hook you up with a 100% bonus up to $200 on that first deposit. Well, I mean, always a fun show talking with you, Reem, and everyone in chat. Not the greatest mood around Jets Nation after that dud last night in Anaheim, but back at it tomorrow and today's Thursday, right? Yeah, back at it tomorrow. Big show on the program. Marat will join us. We'll look ahead to the game with the Minnesota Wild and get ready for what should be a real fun night with the WST crew up in 316.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone there. And yeah, Monday the afternoons we'll be on a bit early, and we got a special presentation coming on Tuesday. So very excited, to have a couple days off, but also excited to see everyone on Saturday at hopefully a Jets win. So they lost. That means they're going to win now on Saturday, right? When we're all there. We don't want to bring everyone out and watch them lose.
I would far rather deal with today and a stinker last night in Anaheim and get a win against the Wild, as opposed to the reverse. So the onus is on the guys. Disappointed moms, I'm sure, afterwards in the loss last night. Time to get it together and get into the holiday break on a winning note in front of the home fans, and then get ready for the Leafs on Monday. And as Remis just mentioned, because the Monday show is at 1 o'clock, or the Monday game is at 1 o'clock, we're obviously not going to be on live while the Jets are playing. And then right afterwards, the IC guys and Kenny and Rennie will be doing their post-game thing. So we're not going to go up against them at the same time. So what we're going to do is do an early show. I think we'll shoot to get going at 11 a.m., and we'll probably go for an hour 15 or so. We'll do a little bit on the Leafs Jets, teeing it up for that. We'll hit everything else coming out of the weekend, all the football stories, and just do our usual thing on an abbreviated show. And then, while everyone has their holidays for the 24th and 25th and 26th, we're working on some special programming that you'll be able to enjoy. Maybe when you need a little break from the family, you can fire it up. So we will have some special Christmas programming that I think you're absolutely going to love. We'll fill you in on that a little bit more tomorrow. But join us tomorrow. We'll have Marble Race. Hacksaw's going to come by. Marat's on the program tomorrow as well. And we'll also get the latest on the Minnesota Wild heading into to tomorrow's game. And we'll hook up with Jesse or one of our friends in the Twin Cities to set all that one up. And obviously have the latest on the Jets, which, Remis, bit of breaking news right at the end of the program involving some assignments to the Manitoba Moose. And I say assignments because not one but two players are on their way back to Manitoba.
Yeah, the Winnipeg Jets just tweeting out that transactions. They have loaned Dylan Coghlan and forward Nikita Chibrikov to the Manitoba Moose. I don't know what loaned means. Is that different than assigned?
No, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing? They just put them on the Moose?
Yeah.
I don't think doesn't a loan imply like you're going to take it back at some point?
You have the opportunity, I guess. You can call that loan back in. I'll tell you what, I don't know about Coghlan. I guarantee that we'll see Chibrikov at some point this season.
Like on December 9, they wrote they assigned Brad Lambert to the Moose. Does loan mean like there just is a salary cap move? Like Coghlan cleared waivers. So I'm just confused with the use of the word loaned because they did use assigned on December 9.
Tweet them back. Say, is a loan different than being assigned? It's a great question.
I should text.
I don't believe it's different. I think that might just be semantics. Bottom line is the Moose are back in action on Friday, tomorrow, and I would expect both Coghlan to get some playing time, having cleared waivers, be a nice add to the Moose blue line, and Chibrikov to be back most likely with Brad Lambert as the Moose look to end a pretty ugly streak right now and get back in the win column. We'll hit all that tomorrow. Maybe we'll get Fink on to tee up the weekend for the Moose.
You're right. Okay, so on November 12th, they loaned Capo Kakinen to the Moose, so he's still there. So yes. I guess it's just, you're right. It is just semantics.
Just semantics.
Okay. I just wanted to clear that up because
Tyson Ducharme says Coghlan has a one-way deal. I'm pretty sure that's the difference. And I think Kakinen does as well. So that's actually, you know what? I think Tyson, geez, the brains of Transcona.
I'll have to find I'm learning new terms. I don't know.
Yeah, it's your boy Bruce. We'll confer with IC Dave. Dave knows everything about being all things Moose. Fun show with those guys last night. They weren't in a good mood. Rennie was hilarious at the start of the season, at the start of the show yesterday. But hey, you know what? The team moves on. We will move on. I'm already locked in on seeing many of you on Saturday night up in our section for our third WST night. And we as a group can go 3-0 at the barn this year. And the Jets can go 3-0 against the Minnesota Wild. So we'll get ready for that tomorrow. Big football weekend and so much more. And fill you in a little bit more on our Christmas special, which will be available for you after the game against the Leafs on the 23rd. But remember, 11 a.m., we'll get the gang together with a little combo pregame show and weekend wrap-up before the puck drops with the Maple Leafs coming up on Monday at 1 p.m. Winnipeg time. It's going to do it for us. Thanks to John Waldman and Brian Munz, Brandon Rewucki, Shane Malloy, and all of you for making us a part of your day. And again, a huge happy holidays and thank you to the sponsors that make Winnipeg Sports Talk happen each and every day. As you're getting out to do some last-minute Christmas shopping, support the sponsors if you can and tell them your boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. It's going to do it for us. Enjoy the hockey and the football game tonight. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 on Marbles Friday right here on WST.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.